that creative aspect. And this specific cigar uses I'd say a pretty interesting San Andreas wrapper.
What makes it interesting to
To
you?
me, it's very like so. San Andreas typically is handled the same way as Connecticut broadleaf, so typically you'll see it stock cut. But this one here, it's very fragile, yet it has like that very toothy kind of thick kind of texture to it. You would get like if you told me it was a Connecticut broadleaf cigar without smoking it, I would believe you just based on the look and the feel of it. So it has that unique San Andreas wrapper on it. I believe it has a. Is this the Tempe binder? He uses is it the Tempe binder? And then Esteli.
All I wrote down was Nicaraguan
I believe it's
binder filler.
a Tempe and then Condega Esteli fillers. I could probably find that for you to make sure I'm correct on that. Yep. Boom. I'm pretty good at what I do, I think. Yes. No,
We think
it's
you're
not a
pretty
Tempe.
good.
It's Condega and Condega Esteli fillers. So, I was thinking of the Maduro Coraline.
Oh.
So the interesting thing with this is to my knowledge, the West Tampa Red that's coming out is actually using this San Andreas wrapper as a regular production that they're offering. So it just goes that this kind of experimental idea that he had, I believe it was 2,000 boxes of 20 count.
15, I think.
15,000.
No, 15 count.
15 count. So 2,000 boxes, 15 count. So that's going to be obviously I don't know what the entire blend is on the West Tampa Red, but I know it's using the same wrapper. So it's that's all I know about it at least.
Actually, let me I'll fact check myself on that on the box count. But Bree, we smoked this a little bit earlier, and you almost immediately came up with a cocktail idea for it. What is it that you have made for us?
Yeah, well, I was slightly torn. Me, and Elise were kind of talking about it, and initially, I was thinking of course, your standard go-to is let's find a good bourbon to go with this. We've been doing bourbon somewhat frequently, and last week we were between doing a spiced rum or a bourbon mixed drink.
Right.
So from what I got smoking or starting to smoke this cigar, was wanting something that's going to have a little bit of spice and sweetness to it, but not so much that it overdoes the cigar. Because I did find that although there's a lot of white pepper initially, it mellowed
Pat,
out nicely.
We were both wrong. Apparently, 2,000 boxes of 14.
14, okay.
14 cigars. Sorry.
That's an
Okay,
odd
good.
number.
Yeah. There you go. Sorry, Bree.
You're good,
Please
you're good. Go for it.
continue.
But so we decided to go with a tequila mixed drink, and Elise brought up the point of why don't we do the Oaxaca? It's one of our standards on the bar, and we tried it. I think last summer was when we first started making them, and it's equal parts reposado tequila, mezcal, agave, little Luxardo cherry, torched orange peel, and 2 types of bitters. So it's pretty much like a tequila old fashioned. So
Well,
hopefully it goes well.
I did think that the orange flavors would mix well with the flavors of the cigar.
Yes, it
But
has that sweetness to it.
I'd be interested to know what you both think, Pat and Dave.
Of the pairing or the cigar first?
You can talk about the cigar first if you want, but I want to talk about the pairing too.
So you get like that San Andreas sweetness on the initial draw on your tongue. And then this one, I've smoked this probably like I'd say 6 times now. And I feel like every time I kind of get steered in a different direction of what I'm getting.
I could see that.
Is
too.
that a good thing or a bad thing? Like, do you think you're
I think
finding
it's good. I
something
just think
new
it's
with
just
each
based
cigar,
on-
or is the cigar not the same as what you
I think
had before?
it's based on I think my palate, which today for the most part I have a pretty clean palate. This is probably the cleanest palate I've had when I've actually smoked it. But I've it's interesting though because
the things we could say.
one of the
Dirty
things I've
palate.
started focusing on when I'm smoking a cigar is kind of like because obviously like the wrapper has a taste to it without like the smoke component of it. So I've been
Right.
kind of focusing on like when I'm actually doing the core draw and I'm drawing from the cigar when it's lit, how that flavor is like initially on my tongue before the smoke kind of gets introduced to it.
Mm-hmm.
And this one gives me kind of like a mineral kind of um like a mineral kind of texture on my tongue. It's weird. I think it's just,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason I get like mineral. That's what I think of, like an earthy mineral. And then you get that sweetness. And then the retro is interesting because it has like a lot of nuances to it. So obviously you get that typical San Andreas kind of like sweet, spicy initial hit.
Right.
But then I'm getting kind of like the only way I can really explain it is kind of like a umami. So like you could say a bread or a potato, like a really kind of savory flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it leaves you with like a leather and kind of minor espresso finish.
I definitely get the espresso you're talking about. Dave, you're scowling at your cigar like Patrick. What are you picking up from it?
Well,
Or are you trying to get it to speak to you?
I'm trying to get it to speak to me. When I took the footband off, it kind of took a lot of the wrapper with it, so it's kind of burning weird. And because of that, it's, I'm getting a lot more binder than the wrapper,
Mm-hmm.
and it's making it. It's because of that the San Andreas really isn't there, so I'm just kind of getting like this really smooth saltiness, or maybe like a salty pepper.
A smooth, salty
pepper.
I will say, like, my experience with Condega is it has kind of a if you had a sweet potato chip, that's always a note that I get when I have like Condega tobacco, and since this is the binder and some of the filler here, I think that's why I guess like a sweet salty potato chip. Like I guess you could say like a sea salt and vinegar potato chip. I don't know. That's just like I don't know, for whatever
You're
reason.
starting to get weird on me.
I can actually see that.
But
though.
that Condega is weird. Like typically Jalapa's really salty, but Condega has a little bit more sweetness to it, but it has like that kind of creamy umami aspect to it.
Yeah.
And then Esteli is earth, black pepper, leather, so I think that's kind of where those notes are coming from. So that's why like I mean it's an interesting cigar, and the San Andreas, because like Condega tobacco, based on my experience with it, has that sweetness, but it's not like a front runner note. It's really that umami and that saltiness.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I think the San Andreas wrapper is actually doing a really, really good job here because it's kind of bringing that sweetness forward. So it's kind
Right.
of, it's combating the saltiness. Because,
Mhm.
there's some cigars I've smoked. Like, to me, like, when I first started smoking, like, the 1874 Lancero was, like,
Mhm.
really, to me, mineral salt. Like, it's
Yeah.
just very salty. And again, that's a lot of Nicaraguan jalapa. But it's just, everything in this cigar is just going very well together. Just based on my experience with the tobaccos alone, it's
Yeah,
going
well,
really well.
the San Andreas usually comes with those coffee, earth, and cocoa notes, and that cocoa and salt really play well together. I mean, we sell some special local chocolates downstairs, Loon Chocolate, and one of the most popular chocolate bars that's down there is the Maine sea salt blend. That little bit of extra salt and the chocolate just goes fantastic together, plays off each other. I definitely feel like that's going on here. What about you, Bree? What do you think?
chocolate covered pretzel.
A chocolate covered pretzel.
No. I
So
think
we
when
have
we first
salt and vinegar chip and a chocolate covered
No.
pretzel.
And honestly,
No,
it
no,
tastes like
it's-
aisle 6 at Market Basket.
Tastes like I also.
I hope
think we're
Barry
all-
is
I was
listening.
thinking. I was thinking more of the potato chip you get out of like
Yeah.
a Reese's peanut butter cup. Have you guys seen those? The Reese's peanut butter cups with potato
This
chips.
is why I don't go first, Dan, because everyone starts saying like potato chips. Like, I'm trying to get unique here.
Well, I was talking about the chocolate downstairs
Mhm.
when you were talking about chocolate and salt. But no, I feel like this is smoking differently than, again, the one that you gave me before.
Mhm. What's
I got
different
less
about it?
less spice at first.
Mm.
I'm getting more of the sweetness,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it's because I had different flavors on my palate as well. Like
Is your
I had
palate not
water
so
this
clean right
time.
now?
Before I was drinking watermelon Monster. So that
No,
might
your
change
palate's
things.
not exactly clean now.
So now it's clean. I had
The
water.
pairing for me is totally, it's giving me like a mouthful of mineral salt after I take a draw of the cigar after the drink. But it's like a sweet mineral salt.
Still like a really smooth smoke. I'm enjoying
Yeah,
it.
it definitely is mineral-y though,
Yeah.
in a good way. I think like some cigars
Mm.
have that component, and it's kind of a turn off to some people. But this one here, like, there's just like I use texture a lot, but there's like a lot of textures to this, and if you have the right mouth feel, like the minerals not bad at all. And I just think it's blended very well. Like the sweetness
Yes.
definitely coats your palate, so that mineral note can be more enjoyed.
Mhm.
And I think again, like when I have like a Nicaraguan cigar that at least I know what's in it, like they disclose it. Like whenever I see Condega or Jalapa, I'm expecting obviously more salty with Jalapa, but Condega has like that savory note to it. So seeing that it's doubled down Condega with the binder and fillers with some Esteli to get that spice in there, and then that San Andreas, which I wish I knew more about San Andreas, like how different companies use it, because like you can have like, you know, a Coraline Undercrown, and then you can have the Attic series. Coraline Undercrown is like a very like oily, smooth, almost like a moist wrapper to me. It's very shiny. It doesn't have like a lot of tooth to it. But then you have this San Andreas wrapper, which isn't shiny, has a lot of tooth to it, dry, rustic, you could say. And they both smoke very differently. Like this one has good sweetness, but this, you know, the Undercrown San Andreas to me has a lot more chocolatey sweetness, while this one's more of a mineral spice. You know, you can say maybe a floral sweetness, but it's not like that really thick textured chocolate.
It's not as the sweetness isn't as rich as it
Which
is with
maybe
that
what it could
Undercrown,
be
yeah.
is maybe, you know, because you look at the shades of the wrapper, maybe the Undercrown gets fermented longer, and this one's more of like a, it's not a natural, but it's like kind of in between what you would have with the Undercrown. But it's very, I'm impressed with the cigar. It's like it's been one of the
Christoph
more
looking
interesting smokes I've had
because it's
within
marbled.
the past couple quarters.
Now, West Tampa, basically launched last year in at PCA in 2022 and came out with 2 lines of cigars, white and black. White and black, black and white. And 3 sizes of each. It's very, very simple. A Robusto, a Toro, and a Gordo 660. And so this is the 7th thing to come out from West Tampa, and is the first thing that departs from the black and the white blends. How do you think this compares with the other 2?
Personally, I have a side comment off of that I was going to make earlier, and then answering the question. So for one, I think West Tampa Tobacco is what I think your modern cigar person would do when they make a brand. So they have a light and a dark option. They do Robusto, Toro, 60, so top 3 selling sizes. They don't have any other, to my knowledge, sizes.
No. Yep.
So your top selling sizes, and then, dark and light, right? Like, which is what most people are kind of looking for that go into a humidor. So then you have this cigar here, which is, I think when you get like a good foundation, you kind of start having the ability of kind of toying now and playing around with different tobaccos, so you can have more fun. And so like the Attic series having the San Andreas, to me it's a limited. We talked about this like months ago with like the TAA conversation we had. It was probably about a year ago with the Asylum 13 Honduran Perfecto that they made. And it's like you have the ability of doing a limited production cigar that is kind of a fun thing to do. It's limited, like stores get it, people try it, they like it, they don't like it, but then it's not something that you put this huge, mass production investment into.
Right.
So you can kind of see how it goes, like
It's like a test market almost.
yeah, like is Christian trying to make Asylum Honduran? I don't know, but he did it in that cigar. See how it goes. But so here, since he has that foundation, he has this cigar, and then he's doing the red, which is now a San Andreas, which I would suspect is going to be more of a fuller bodied cigar. The black is
Medium.
medium, yeah, and I'd say like the white is kind of like your mild plus. I wouldn't say it's like the most mild cigar on the market, but it's
No.
definitely not like your, Perdermal champagne. It's not, like a strong Connecticut.
Right.
So, I like how they're doing it. It's kind of like that baby step approach. Get like that nice core line foundation, and then start getting sexy or something. If it sticks, then put it in your core line lineup, because it's going to be like the red's going to be part of that core line. So I like that they have light, rich, dark, and then now they have like a fuller bodied, like spicy. Well, I'm suspecting that's how it's going to be. I haven't had the
Yeah.
red yet. I think you've had it.
I did have a red, and I really, really enjoyed
How
it.
does it compare to the attic?
They're very similar. It's a. I think if you like the attic, you're going to like the red, and I guess that's really all I can say about it. But it is the same wrapper on the red that's on this, and I remember the red being a little bit stronger than this. I had a Robusto, so the ring gauge was a little bit smaller, and that might have something to do with why I felt like it was a little bit stronger than this. But of the three, the black, the white, and the red is what my favorite West Tampa is so far. Very, very good. I can't wait for those to come into the shop. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, what do you guys think of the pairing?
So far, I like the pairing. I think it's bringing out a lot of sweetness and saltiness in the cigar. I think it goes pretty well.
How do you feel, Bree? You look a little undecided.
It's refreshing. It's good, but honestly, I feel like I almost would have preferred something neat with this cigar. I think I expected the cigar to build in spice and intensity a little bit more, and the drink almost feels a little watered down for this cigar. Like again, it's mellow, it's enjoyable. I like the addition that like the mezcal and the drink brings to it, but I
Yeah.
feel like the ice is kind of overpowering the drink, and like almost like you would get more of the sweetness from the orange peel and the smokiness from the tequila and like the mellow sweetness from the agave if it was either a neat cocktail or so it's mediocre for me so far.
Okay.
Curious to see how it will be as the cigar goes on and if it will complement the spice more.
Pat, would you agree with Debris?
So the Oaxaca, when I just took a sip out of it, it's like obviously botanics, but it has like, to me it's salty. I don't know if that's just because to me the cigar is salty, but it's very salty. There's no salted rim on it or anything. It's just naturally salty. And then it has like a very subtle sweetness to it. I think it's kind of masked by that smoky mezquite you have from the mezcal. And then obviously a little bit of citrus orange. And then with the cigar, I mean, it's all based on like what your preferences are, whether or not it's a good pairing.
Sure.
Like I can say that it takes out all the sweetness. I have no sweetness in the cigar. That spice note was brought very, very forward, so it's bringing out the fillers in the cigar. Like I think that Esteli tobacco is really kicking. It's like a black and occasion. Like it has like a little bit of that earthy sweetness, but it's so masked by the pepper. So I would say primarily it's a black, but there's a little bit of that sweetness there. But then on the finish, it's kind of putting like those more bitter notes from the tobacco.
Yeah.
So the chocolatey note I'm getting is not there, but maybe a little bit. But I'm getting more of like that leather, that earth,
Yep.
maybe a little bit of espresso. Like it kind of like has like this kind of aroma to it, like when you use the espresso machine and you just grind the fresh coffee, like that kind of hot espresso kind of aroma to it, like when it's, you know what I mean when I say it's hot.
Yeah.
And then a very subtle like unsweetened chocolate, like orange chocolate on the finish. So it's not like the cigar on its own before I had taken a sip from the drink was very enjoyable. It still is enjoyable, but it's really what you're looking for from the cigar. Like it's again
think
like
it's an
those
interesting
darker bitter
pairing.
notes are coming out with the Oaxaca.
It does change a lot.
It does,
Yeah, 'cause
and
there are
that's
bitters that do a
again
lot.
really interesting about how the drink can really impact the cigar. It takes the cigar on its own. I think the sweetness of it is one of its strong points, and the drink really wipes a lot of that out. However, to me anyway, the finish on the cocktail lingers,
Yeah.
and
I feel like the cigar like amplifies that finish.
and what lingers is kind of this growing, orange peel kind of flavor on your tongue. And so
The
right out,
tannin.
if you when I take a drink and then immediately puff, it's like a lot of the flavor is gone in the cigar. There's the mineral, there's the salt, there's the
Don't
little
you
bit
feel
of
like
wood.
it amplifies the drink? Like I feel like if I drink and then I smoke, I'm not getting really any of the cigar, but the flavors that I get from the drink are like getting stronger.
Yeah, well, there's that. And then if I wait like 10 or 15 seconds after I drink, the finish is still going in my mouth from the drink. Then I draw on the cigar, and those orange peel and sweet flavors from the tequila really interact well with the cigar and its cocoa flavors and notes. And so it's almost like you have to drink, wait a minute, pause, and then take a puff on the cigar.
I concur
And
with that.
that's very enjoyable. But if you do it one right
Right
after the other,
it's kind of like a wash. Yeah.
but it is. It's funny how the drink can do that. It like completely wash out the cigar, because there's nothing in the drink I think that's contrary to what's in the cigar. I think it's a very complementary pairing, or that's the idea anyway. But I think you're right, Bree. The ice and the watering down of the drink really kind of washes a lot of the cigar flavor away. So you kind of got to let that flavor mellow a little bit, let that water kind of dissipate on, so that what you're left with are those flavors on your palate, and then take a drag on the cigar and see what happens.
I'd agree.
Am I nuts? No, you agree?
Because even after I tried what you were saying, wait a little bit, and then experience the after palate, you do get
The
this
after palate.
lingering sweetness.
That sounds like
The after palate.
extra
like
content on the show.
It's like
Not
a
just
bad
blowing
cigar
smoke,
name.
the after
Bad
palate.
cigar.
That's our
It's
after.
a bad
dark
lounge name. The aftertaste.
Our palates are clean, but
The
it's
after
the
palate.
after palate.
But
What
it
do you
is
want?
interesting, like Pat calling out the bitter notes in the cigar,
Mm-hmm.
and this drink really is primarily bitters. It's two
Right.
types of bitters, and there's a more significant portion of bitters than you would typically put in most other
Yeah, you
cocktails.
can taste it. Yeah.
So bitters are complicated. There's so many different types of bitters.
Just like life,
Yeah.
bitters are complicated.
This is one of those interesting things that I think we should do together at some point is take the cherry out, have the cherry, and then draw from the cigar. So I
Ooh.
think that this is going to be one of those food pairings where the cherry is going to go very well with the cigar.
Should we do that at the end now?
I think we can wait a little bit.
Wait till it marinates.
We can enjoy the cherry in the drink a little bit longer.
But this is a very like bitter, smoky drink, and I just think like just the nature of like your palate, how it reacts to like those bitter notes, like those sensations are kind of activated on your tongue before you draw from the cigar. So I think you're more susceptible to those kind of originally pretty subtle bitter notes from the tobacco that just kind of come alive. There is a
Yeah.
lot of people that I work with, downstairs in the humidor that are looking for those bitter
all
notes.
4 of us, yeah.
Yeah. But it's
And bitter in a good way. I
yeah,
know
like
you said
bitter,
that, but
like
yeah.
whenever you say like if it's like an acidic bitter, that's bad. But
Mm-hmm.
typically bitters, it's just like you want some bitter in a cigar 'cause it gives you like what I call the mouth feel. Like you want like those salty and bitters in there, the sweetnesses. Like it's all plays a part into it.
I think the smoothest, creamiest, bitterest you can get is from a Placencia 6-2.
Sixto.
6-0. 602.
Sixto. Yeah.
That is just, it's so delicious.
6-2.
6-2.
Give me my 6-2.
That's 622.
Uh-huh. Before we go on any further, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up at Twins. We have a lot going on, and I'm just gonna give you the next three things that are happening here. We're basically done with April. I can't even believe it. I felt like yesterday it was December, and
No, this year's
and
cranking.
now we're going into May. Next Saturday, yeah.
It's gonna
Dave's so
be
excited
May.
about May the 4th.
It's got a
back. But Saturday, May 13th, from 12 to 4, we have Eric Stokeby, the founder and president of Fourth Generation Pipes and Tobaccos,
Yeah,
with us in
baby.
the store. I'm wicked excited about that. We try and get him at least once a year. Eric is a legend in the pipes and tobacco world. His family has been in and around the business for, go figure, 4 generations. Maybe that's why he named it Fourth Generation.
Yeah.
He's the 4th generation. And his pipes are awesome. His tobaccos that he comes out with are fantastic.
I love my church.
The resolution that he came out with, his small batch this year, which he did with Jeremy Reeves and Cornell Deal, is my favorite of his small batches that I've tried so far. Great stuff. And he's going to be in the store, and we're going to have, now the company that reps him, Marango, also does Nording pipes, and both 4th Gen and Nording have a Denmark origin to them. So we're calling it the Day of the Danes, and it's going to feature both 4th Gen and Nording pipes. And we're going to have some specials going on, a special event too, where you can come back to the pipe bar, and there's going to be some Viking blood cocktails. And it's funny. Was it you and me, Bree, who were trying the Viking blood cocktail, putting it together, and it was like, we were reading what goes into this aquavit and coffee and Sprite or a 7-Up or something, and you're like reading, and you're like, this should not work.
Yeah.
This should taste like crap, but we did it anyway, and you know what? It was really pretty good.
It was.
We weren't just saying it,
almost
right?
like a cream soda or something.
It
like
was
that.
it was really bizarre, and so you've got this kind of bloody looking cocktail, but it's made with stuff that should never be put together. But
Well, like anytime you think of like a dessert liqueur and something carbonated, you're like, ugh.
yeah, it should not have
It
worked,
feels wrong.
but it does. And you're going to get a Viking blood cocktail. You're going to get Carlsberg beer. We're going to be pairing those with the last 3 small batches that he's released. Petey Kentucky, the Jerebellum Flake, and this year's Resolution. And there's going to be roasted meats as well with that, kind of going along with the Viking theme that he wanted to do with this. And so $30 will get you those beers, cocktails, and the pipe tobacco. You can spend time with Eric, smoke with him, talk with him, enjoy that time. And then if you turn around and you decide to buy one of his pipes or an Nording pipe, you can put that $30 back toward the pipe. So that's going to be a great time. May 13th from 12 to 4 p.m. And then the very next Saturday, May 20th, is an event I'm really pumped about. I know Pat's really pumped about it. And that is the HVC Pancake Brunch with Rainier Lorenzo, who is the owner and president and founder of HVC. That starts at 11 a.m. It's going to be out on the deck.
Hopefully.
Pancakes, sausage, bacon, fresh fruit, coffee, and then the whole thing gets capped off with a Cuban mojito that Rainier is going to make himself out on the deck. And I love that idea because mojitos are not a regular cocktail that's done. We've done them before, but it's not something
Sustainable.
that you can regularly get on a daily basis here. It's $40. It includes the breakfast. It includes 2 cigars, and you're going to get special deals on HVC cigars out on the deck. It's going to be limited to 30 people. The tickets are already flying. You want to make sure you get them before they're gone, and just come into either Twins Smoke Shops. Give us a call. Tell us you want to come to the brunch, because as soon as we fill up those 30 seats, it's gone. And our own Sean Fales, our general manager, is going to be making the pancakes and cooking everything on the grill and griddle. It's going to be awesome. I am so looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
And Rainier's going to tell his story, talk about the cigars, one of which, of course, is a hot cake. You can't do a pancake brunch with them and not do a hot cake. Come on. But then the other cigar is going to be a special thing. He's kind of keeping it secret. I think it's going to be a unreleased cigar. And so he'll talk about that. He'll talk about the blends, talk about how he works. I'm wicked pumped about it. He's an awesome, awesome dude. I know you're excited about it, Pat.
Yeah,
Right.
it's hands down especially for the money, like $40 compared to the other events we've been doing. Like what you're gonna be getting for this is gonna be absolutely insane. Like I mentioned it last show. I'm not gonna dwell on it, but I've sat with him for a few minutes and like you learn so much, and it's so interesting
Yeah.
because he's young, he's in the industry, like he's trying to grow, and he is so open about everything he does. Like if you want to learn anything about tobacco, like you're gonna find out with him, especially like
That's cool.
smoking the cigar. Like he's not trying to tell you what the difference between the Toro and the Corona is. Like, and for someone like me that like really appreciates that, like he'll tell you the primings of it. Like he is a wealth of knowledge, and like
Yeah.
just that setting we're gonna have out on the patio on its own is very unique to something we've been doing here. But the ability to sit with him and get some one-on-one time with him is going to be paramount. Like it's going to be a really, really good time. I'm happy I'm working
Yeah.
that day. It's going to be phenomenal.
And a cocktail, a full meal, and 2 cigars for $40 is pretty damn awesome. It's a really good deal. So I hope everybody who's listening calls up and gets their ticket. I'd love for this thing to sell out tomorrow, but it's going to sell out. There's no question in my mind about that. So get your tickets fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing going on is we have a big Rocky Patel spring promotion going on, and that's going to culminate on June 2nd and 3rd. Nimish Patel is going to be with us here at Twins, and between now and then, you can get ready for that by purchasing Rocky Patel cigars. We're going to be raffling off 3 big things. The first of which is first prize, the grand prize is going to be that person and a guest will get to be with Kurt and Rocky and several other people who will be drawn at a later date overnight at Lake Winnisquam at a summer house up there. It's been rented. Everything's been made ready to go. It's going to be awesome. And then second prize is a Rocky Patel ALR limited edition humidor with 50 ALR cigars in it that are made only for that humidor. You can't get the Vitola that's in the humidor anywhere other way than getting that humidor. It's valued at $5,000.
That's freaking nuts.
That's second prize. And then third prize is going to be a Rocky Patel party pack, which is a really kind of a glorified leather-covered wicker basket that holds a couple of rocks glasses. It's got a space for your bottle of your favorite spirit. It's got a holder for 10 cigars, a place for a cutter and a lighter, and it's going to come with the cigars in there, and a bunch of other Rocky Patel swag too. That's going to be $300 right there. So every time you buy 10 or more Rocky cigars between now and the 2nd of June, you'll get a ticket which will qualify you for one of those prizes. If you buy any box or any mix and match of 20 Rocky Patel cigars between now and then, you'll get 3 tickets for those prizes. The kicker, there's a little bonus thing that we're doing to kind of shake things up. Every week, we're going to highlight a different brand of Rocky Patels or a different line of Rocky Patels. This week, which goes to, let's see, let me get the date so that I don't screw things up here. Whoops. There we go. The now through the 29th, any box or mix and match of 20 Rocky Patel vintage cigars. So 1999, 1990, 2003, any vintage line cigar. If you buy the box between now and Saturday, you get 6 tickets.
Double tickets, baby.
And next week, the highlighted brands are going to be the Edge 20th Anniversary and the DBS. So the week of April 30th to May 6th, you're going to get 6 tickets if you buy any DBS or Edge 20th size. And it's going to go like that all the way up to the event. But this week, it's vintage. You buy any box of vintage cigars or mix and match 20 vintage cigars, and you get 6 raffle tickets. And those prizes are awesome. I think they're great. I'm wicked pumped about that event. And then Nimish is going to be here on the 2nd and 3rd of June, and the 2nd is a Friday. We're going to be doing a big event with him. We'll talk more about that as the event gets closer. But he'll be drawing the 3 winners that night for the event. And that's just the next 30 days, what's going on at Twins. We have stuff planned all the way through December already. The calendar is chock full of stuff. I showed the calendar to Pat this afternoon, and his jaw almost hit my desk. It was funny because he was just really there's a lot going on. We got a lot going on, and it's nuts. And it's funny. We talked a little bit earlier about the year like rushing by. It's funny how it's only, the end of April.
Yeah, we're a quarter of the way through the year already.
And we're already booked for events and things through the end of the year. I've already had to start telling people I can't do anything else. It's bizarre. In a good way. I mean, I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad we're that
from
busy.
what's going on this year to here's the year.
Yeah,
in the matter of like a couple weeks.
Well, I
crazy.
can squeeze you in the first quarter of 2024. It's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So Rick Rodriguez, in naming the cigar the attic, really kind of explains that going to the attic is where he does his creative thinking. We all have our places for it. That's his place. Where do you go to do your creative thinking? Are you going to say the bathroom, Bree? Don't say the bathroom.
Well, no, it depends on what type of creative thinking you're doing, first
Type
of all.
of creative thinking
I mean, like,
that you
my-
can talk
my,
about
uh,
on the show.
my
That's the
mellow-
kind of creative thinking we're talking about.
no, typically, like, for me, like, when I just think about where I prefer to go to do, like, even homework, normally it's some kind of like cigar bar or coffee shop where I don't know a lot of people. So like just like going to like a new shop and just sitting down in the corner with your laptop and
Yep.
doing whatever. Just like somewhere where you can do what you enjoy without being bothered.
You want to enjoy a cigar, but you don't want to be bothered.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, so sometimes that if it's nice outside, anywhere in nature, like yeah, for my
I on that line, you know, I'll give you a little bit of a confession here. Before I was at Twins, I worked for two guys smoke shops, and I was a customer there before I worked there. Everybody and their mother knew who I was. I couldn't be there without having people come up, say hi, start conversations or whatnot. And kind of to your point, I needed to find a place where I could go and enjoy a cigar and nobody would know who I was, or at least it wasn't obvious to everybody. And that place was Twins. I used to come here to hide and smoke a cigar and really kind of do some heavy thinking when I did not want to be bothered by all the regulars. And you know, when I was working there, at least there were regulars who were there every single day. I wonder how those guys even, you know, like that was their life, was going to the shop. And, you know, that's great and all, but if you're just trying to go and get away, that's really hard to do. So I totally get that. And I kind of live that. Now I have no place to go. They all know me there. I work here. I'm the manager here. So it's like, where do I go now? You know, there's very few places that, you know, I guess, you know, for me, my favorite place to go would be a particular place out of state, and I can't even get there on a regular basis. So, yeah. Pat, what about you? Where do you do your creative thinking?
So when I was younger, because it's obviously changed. When I was younger, it was in my room, like building like Legos.
It was in my room.
Building like Legos. That was
Yeah.
my creative thinking.
Yeah.
And then obviously now it's, you guys could probably imagine what I'm gonna say, but like I mean, when I went to law school, it changed.
Yeah.
So typically, I think it would be like just
Do you actually do
in-
creative thinking? Do you
yeah.
creatively think?
in undergrad, it was at the dining hall, which is the
Uh-huh.
weirdest thing. I mean, well, not really. So at UNE, we got a brand new dining hall my sophomore year. So my freshman year was being constructed. So they had like coffee there. You know, they had like a bunch of different things you can eat, but like
Right.
it was kind of a relaxing area, and like, you know, you have like these huge bay window type things that look out to the Saco River. So it's a pretty good spot.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, typically after the gym, I would go there and I would get like this kind of hibachi type food or whatever, sit there, have coffee, and then that's usually where I would think creatively, if you want to say that. I mean, a lot of it's homework and everything like that. I didn't really have a lot of time to be really creative. And then when I started going to law school and I realized I have to actually think creatively,
I'm glad you added
found-
creatively.
yep. It was, I started during COVID, obviously, so we were all Zoom. So a lot of my work was done at home, which I think a lot, outside of this group, I think a lot of people would probably say someplace at home would be a place that they, I mean, you know, Rodriguez, the attic.
The
I'm
attic,
assuming
yeah.
he's not going to some random person's attic, right? Like it's his house. So when COVID ended,
Can I use your
and
attic
I could
again?
actually go out, I found strangely that my grades just completely skyrocketed when I started doing homework and thinking here, like at Twins, and you know, smoking a cigar in the smoke shop. And it's just weird because like the best example I have, it's kind of a mini story, is last year I had done I was doing litigation, and we had a case we were doing that my dad volunteered to be like a police officer testifying, and it was a OUI case in Massachusetts, kind of a bizarre fact pattern. So I was practicing a lot at home with him because, he's the witness. I have to teach him the fact pattern, da da da. And, so a lot of my creative thinking was done there because I was prepping my argument I was the Commonwealth in this case, so I'm trying to jam the guy up that, was caught doing an OUI. And it is interesting because, like, I'll give the facts of the case briefly because, so basically, guy is ex-military vet. He was shot in the line of duty, so he has a gimpy left leg. He does like beer repping or whatever, so he like does facings and stuff. He stocks bars, so his company van has containers in the back of the car, open containers, whatever. So after work one day, he went to a bar and he drove patrons home for whatever reason that night, and then he omitted to having a few beers there, and then the state police officer, which was my dad in this hypothetical case because he testified as the officer, saw him veering over the double yellow lines, and then he went, detained him. Obviously, he failed the field tests because of his leg, that they would say, and then boom. So that was mainly the argument of the case. So a lot of my thinking was at home, and I was kind of like talking to my dad about it, his background, how I would go about it. So we ended up doing the case, and it went well, the fact pattern, it's fake, obviously, so it's very heavily geared towards the defendant winning because typically the defendant has the harder argument. So the first case we did, we lost because it's very stagnant. Other reasons why we lost, I think it's kind of BS, but whatever. So we ended up having a second case, and a student was unable to perform in it. So since I had already done the defendant role, like I had like a day or two notice to actually do it. So now this time I'm at Twins and I'm looking over the fact pattern and I'm like, all right, how can I win it this time? Because apparently like no one has won this case like with the Commonwealth side in years. So I'm like, I'm gonna win this freaking case. So I'm sitting at Twins and I'm trying to think, I'm like, how am I gonna win this argument? It was the defendant was the same kid from my school, really good student, puts on a good show, but it was the same kid, and I'm just thinking of his arguments. I'm like, all right. The big thing that jammed us up in this thing was that when he swerved, it was because his passenger had taken the wheel and was pulling it, and that's why he swerved. And then he went into the parking lot, dropped her off, and boom, then he gets detained and field sobriety test. So that was a big hole in my argument, is like the swerving, because that's a clear sign of intoxication. So I'm sitting here and I'm talking to like different patrons, I'm saying the fact pattern and everything, and then it just clicked in my head. I'm like, if she's and I was smoking, I remember what I was smoking. I was smoking a Liga Privada H99, and I'm like, if she's pulling the wheel, she's gonna go. I mean, the guy's gonna go to the right, not the left. He's not gonna go over the yellow lines. He's gonna go over the white lines.
Right.
So I'm like, if he says that again, he's beep. He's effed.
Yeah.
So I thought of that just sitting at the lounge. I'm like, why didn't I didn't think about that earlier. So the next thing you know, a court case comes, and same testimony kind of thing. He changed it up a little bit, but, he mentioned, like, my co-counsel had questioned him on cross-examination, like, why he veered, and he said this girl just leaned over and yanked the wheel. So, on the cross, I had told my co-counsel to like really interrogate him on why, like, how this girl managed to pull the wheel, so he can assert that she was pulling this wheel. And so he was like, you mean to tell me this little petite girl leaned over the whole car and was able to grab the wheel and pull it down like this, exactly like this, right? Like, she managed to do that? He was like, yeah, she has arms, she can pull the wheel. And I'm like, sick. So I did the closing, and then I just went to the jury, and I was like, if you pull a wheel, which way are you gonna go? And then we won the case. The first time the Commonwealth has won, and that was all from a smoke shop. Just like, so long story short, like, my creative thinking has transformed into a smoke shop. Like, I've had like so many arguments in class that I've just developed sitting here smoking a cigar. And like, you can go to patrons and just say your argument to them and see if there's any flaws in it and stuff. So
Mhm.
it's the smoke shop has become my creative thinking, at least legally, if you want to consider
Yeah,
legal
sure.
creative. But yeah,
Dave, what about you? Where do you do your creative thinking, or do you
No, I actually, honestly,
think?
I creatively think like pretty much anywhere, as long as I'm listening to music. That's
So
what makes
music
me
is
think.
what creates your space.
Yes, music is what creates my space, makes me think. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I like you guys. I think you could tell. One of the reasons I spent so much time in the smoke shop as a customer before I worked there was that is where I got more work done, better work done in the smoke shop than I ever did in my office, or at my house, because that's where my kids were. Um, now, you know, it's kind of reversed. I still do my best creative thinking when I'm enjoying a cigar or enjoying a pipe, or maybe a dram of my favorite something or other. Um, but I do have a smoking room in my house, and so now my study has become kind of that place where I can go and hide and not get um, nitpicked by everybody around because there's nobody around. And but I kind of I love being with people. I'm a definitely a people guy, but I also, maybe ironically, recharge by being alone. So I enjoy that
Makes sense.
personal. I enjoy that personal alone time with my cigar or my pipe. Um, that helps me think and be creative as well. Any of you like that? Do you recharge by being alone,
Oh
or do you
yes.
get recharged by being with people? You need your me time.
Yes, very much so. I mean, especially being a bartender where you're consistently around people, interacting with
Hmm.
people, you have to be very engaged with everybody. It
Yep,
definitely is a strain.
it's
And
draining.
yeah,
It's
so you
draining.
get to your point where you're like, I just need to be alone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Sundays when I am, speaking at a local church or something, when I'm done with that, typically I go home and collapse and
Hmm.
like take a good long nap because you're basically trying to connect with however many people are there, 100,
Yeah.
200 people, and that's it just is draining. It takes a lot out of you. I'm sure you're going to find that when you end up in court, you know,
so it's
you
one of the
trying to connect with the jury and everything.
one of the funny things about like, yeah, I don't know. I was just randomly thinking like it was a while ago, but I was just thinking of like childhood and everything, and like it's just interesting like what growing up and becoming an adult in like society does because like you look at it like when you're younger, like saying like like isolation is where people are creative, like you guys just said, like
Mhm.
like I remember like when I was younger, like how creative I was. Like again, I referred to
Hmm.
playing with Legos, but it's
Mhm.
like I would go to my room and like I had like a Thomas the Train table. It's like this nice wooden table. It has like, like landscape painted on it and everything. And like I would, I had like a bunch of like Lego sets, like Star Wars Lego sets. And it's like I had like uh, it's like another planet in there, like I
Mm.
Yeah,
had
I can
like
totally
these
agree with that. Yeah.
battles and this storyline that went for ages, and it's like there was so much going on. Like I would sleep at night, and I would have like the little figures set up in different areas, and I'm thinking in my head when I'm in bed about what they're doing and like how that story's developing, and it's like it was like this entire planet just around me, and I just look back on it. Like I remember like for shits and giggles, like it was probably like it was during COVID actually, and I just went into my room and all these Lego things are still set up there because it's just a collection I have. And I just was like, I have nothing else to do. I'm gonna play with Legos, whatever. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't do what I used to do and just set this whole thing up in my head and just play with Legos. It was like stripped from me.
And,
Like
and
I lost it.
why do you think that is? Why were you stripped?
I was
of your
asking myself that. It's
Lego
insane.
creativity?
Like I think that happens to a lot of people. Is like when you're younger, obviously like you're developing still,
Well,
but like
I feel like you know the dream is beaten out of you. I feel like that's school.
You can't
In
play
a
with
nutshell.
Legos because the dream's beaten out of you. Is that basically what you're saying?
You're being prepped to work for someone else for the rest of your life. Screw your dreams, you know, and you fit. You, I don't know. That's maybe it's depressing, but that's kind of how I feel about it. The whole thing is you got to go this path. You got to check this box and this box and this box. Don't worry about stop daydreaming. Stop playing with Legos. Stop doing this. It's not going to amount to anything. You know what I mean? You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to study more. You know, and you slowly adjust to adulthood.
I just think you just don't work on it. It's like creativity is like a muscle.
Yes.
Like if you're a writer, I'm sure you're very creative, you know, but I obviously wasn't doing that. Like I, you know, poli sci and law, right? So like I'm creative with arguments and, you know, law, but like I just lost that imaginary creativity.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine something like that like I used to, which that used to be like my life, you know, that's all I did.
Well, it's funny, you know, my creativity has shifted through the years. When I was growing up, you know, I started, I think, with Legos. It got into drawing and a little bit of painting and stuff like that, but drawing was my big thing. And everybody in high school thought I was going to end up doing some kind of art-related thing. And nothing could have been further from the truth.
Right.
But as time has gone on,
Oh, debris.
as time has gone on, you know, that creativity went more into writing and then into speaking. And now it's kind of in cooking. And yeah,
God bless the chili.
I've continued a lot of those things, but the one thing that I have really stopped doing for a very long time is drawing. And to your point, Pat, I don't think I could go back and you can't pick up where you left off. It's like once you stop, you kind of have to relearn the thing all over again. And you know, I've kind of tried, you know, picking that up again, but I'm so disappointed with where I'm at because it's not as good as I was 30, 40 years ago. That, well, not 40, but 25, 30 years ago, that I just feel like my creativity's gone in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bree, you feeling better?
Oh,
No?
much.
Yes, much.
That was one of those, like, I can't. Yeah, I won't get into the graphic details.
No, you don't need to. You don't need to. But what's the final thoughts here on the West
You want to do the
Tampa
cherry?
Athletics? The what?
Oh, yeah.
Let's
Cherry.
do the cherry first. Yeah,
Not
okay.
the cherry.
Eat the cherry.
Oh,
There we go.
I lost my cherry.
A long time ago, Dave.
Hopefully.
It's a sweet 16 soy.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
That cherry goes freaking amazing with this cigar.
My cigar's done. It's
You lost your cherry and your cigar is done.
well,
Okay,
I took
so-
off the band and it took half the wrapper with it. So
No, I haven't had. I have to say, the cigar's been burning fantastic all the way through.
Yeah.
Construction's been totally on point.
the cigar was great, other than the fact that the glue took off for like half the wrapper for me. But little mistake on the band, but other than that.
What about you, Pat? What did you think of your cherry popping cigar experience?
Yeah, it was good. It's like I figured. Honestly, this is another one of those cigars I think a wine would go well with.
Mm-hmm.
Cause that kind of like jammy,
Nice red
Sweet
wine
Chipotle.
would go well with this. Yeah.
We have a new red wine at the
Cereal.
bar too, so that might be coming down the tube soon on the show.
I think a nice Shiraz would go well with this.
So what
Shiraz.
the hell is that?
It's a wine. Kind of wine.
Yeah, I picked
Confused
that
with
up.
a Syrah.
Yeah.
Syrah.
Shiraz. It's very good.
So is it more like, is it like red? Is it white?
It's a red wine, yeah.
red.
It's a red wine. It's a kind of grape, right? I don't know my wines well at all.
I don't
Yeah, it's
know.
I think it's a grape Rhone, and I don't know what the region is in Italy, but
So is it dry? Is it?
I haven't. I wish I knew.
I can just tell you it would go good with it. That's the extent of my Shiraz knowledge. What about you, Bree? Did you like the cherry?
I did. I feel like that was the equivalent of when you like put a sugar packet underneath your tongue to kind of reinvigorate
Invigorate.
any sense of disorientation you might be experiencing.
Very good. So what's the final thoughts here on the cigar? The Attic Series Toro by West Tampa Tobacco Co.
Was it? I don't know if it was because of my wrapper problem, but to me it was actually pretty mild.
Mhm.
Like everything was kind of like
Mellow.
creamy and subtle nuance and mellow. Yeah. And the way you guys were talking about it, I felt like I should have been getting a lot more out of it. But I did smoke a Liga Privada before it, so that might have.
Yeah, that
Really
yeah, your
set
palate
the tone.
was stoned.
Mm.
Pat,
Yeah, I mean, I'll just assert what I said earlier, and it's really, really good. I definitely not mild. I think it's like a medium plus. Really good cigar. Construction was on point. Burn was on point. Ash is on point. It's if you like San Andreas wrappers and you want to kind of have a different twang of it, then
a different twang.
yeah, it reminds me of like
How do you like that?
if you had like a
twangy.
sweeter Tabernacle Havana seed
Mm.
is what it reminded me of, because that's also kind of one of those more rustic, drier no, that's not even a San Andreas wrapper.
No,
oh my
it's
god,
Nope.
no.
Seed.
Nope.
I said the wrong cigar. Wise Man is what I meant to say.
Yes.
It's like that. It's the
Havana seed is
San
so
Andreas
bitter.
wrapper is
Mm.
to me a little similar. That's on the Wise Man Maduro. It's it's so many San Andreas wrappered cigars in the market. It's always fun when you find one that sticks out in different ways.
Mm. How about you, Bree?
Everyone's
like it?
pretty on par so far. It was it was an easy smoke, if that makes
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like it went down fast.
No,
What
I
she
think
said.
almost anybody could smoke this. It's not really that heavy. It's got some richer flavors to it, but it's not overpowering. I don't think the
Yeah, like
kit
if
was
someone
that
wanted
big.
to like try something different other than the Connecticut and make a next step, this would be.
Yeah.
This could be a next step.
comparable.
Yeah.
This could be a next step. Now, before we go, next week we're into May, and starting in May, starting next week, we're going to be recording our show on Monday nights.
Again,
Monday nights again.
Back to
We're going
Mondays.
back to Mondays, which was the original thing. Our whole reason for switching to Tuesdays was, scheduling related. We're able to go back to Monday nights. And so that means our next show is going to be Monday, May 1st. Monday, May 1st. And I'm looking forward to that. We'll probably start a few minutes after 8 o'clock because Dave, will be closing the Hooksett location at 7 o'clock and getting over here and setting all this up. So don't be surprised. If
We're
we
a little
start at
late.
8, great. But if we start a little bit after, don't freak out. And then, of course, the following Monday, that episode will go on to all the podcast platforms at 7 a.m., just like it does all the time now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but make sure that you remember that next week we start Monday, May 1st,
Monday.
8-ish, right here on YouTube and Facebook. And make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss a thing. I'm Pastor Padron. Thanks so much for being with us tonight, and we'll see you next Monday.